Okay, there we go. It's about time to start. Go ahead, Debbie.
Okay, I guess I start without Annie. I don't know if she introduces, but welcome everybody. I've seen some of you throughout the day. I have the privilege of introducing TESOL France's current president, Jeremy Levin. He is the language coordinator at Schema Business School that has several locations in France.
And in the world.
Okay, on around the world. Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't know if it included that part. For the EDSHAM undergraduate program. He's an education technology enthusiast. As you can tell by the music, he adds a little bit of something to everything, and even including his classes and our meetings with XCOM. With proclivity for gamification. When he's not working, he also, after also raising two little young kids, enjoys DJing and producing electronic music. So I put it over to Jeremy, who's going to enhance all our classrooms with gamification.
I also want to, mention a little word about Debbie. Debbie is a past TESOL France president. She's been, so involved with everything we do. If you know TESOL France, you know Debbie. And she's also, you might have to help me with the exact title for your role with TESOL International. It's like you're part of the conference committee?
Yeah, I'm on the conference committee, yes, for TESOL International as well.
That's yes. Right. So, Debbie's also a huge part of TESOL France. And just a little bit of publicity before we start the talk. Our 40th annual colloquium is coming up. So it's an online conference. Unfortunately, we can't do it in person because we had to make this decision a long time ago because, in uncertain times, what do you do? Do you decide to move online? Do you try to do something in person? But then with, taking the risk that things could be canceled for being in person. But this is actually good news if some of you I saw in the chat are from Portugal or the Philippines and wouldn't have been able to make it to France anyway. So come join us for our colloquium. Just go to our website, tesol-france.org, and we'd be happy to have you be part of our online conference. One other thing about TESOL France, the slide just before, I know there's a lot of people here who probably write. We do lots of things at TESOL France, but we're always willing to accept articles or all sorts of different types of pieces that you can submit to our Teaching Times magazine. As you can see, not just articles, interviews, activities, if you just want to submit an activity or a review. Since I'm big into educational technology, I actually did some application and EdTech reviews, or just kind of like some opinion pieces. Whatever you want to write, we're more than welcome. We welcome you to send it, and we'd be happy to publish it in our magazine. Okay, let's get started. And why don't we start with a little game, right? Isn't that what this talk is about? You have to count the number of red hearts that you see all throughout my presentation from now, and even this one counts right now. This is number one. And at the end, I'm going to ask you, how many red hearts did you see? And the first person to type that correctly in the chat will get a prize, and we will announce the prize later. Part of gamification is also leaving a bit of suspense, so I'll let you guys play along. Here we go. My name is Jeremy Levin. I'm the current TESOL France president. Debbie already introduced me. Let's get started. Here we go. You may not even know it, but you might be already implementing some gamification into your lessons. For example, what if, here we go, you set goals with your students, objectives, leading toward a specific vision or path. That's part of gamification, having a clear direction. You show progress along the way. In games, you have like levels, level 1, level 2, but for learners, how do you show progress to them? This is also important for learners to kind of understand and get a feel of where they are. And then do you use positive reinforcement? Do you use any kind of rewards? Or do you just give them positive feedback? If you use any of these, without even knowing it, you probably already do some gamification in your class. Um, I wanted to go back and just mention about progress bars. Even if we see this in a lot of different areas. For example, they did some research on building profiles on social media sites like Facebook and LinkedIn. And before they didn't have a progress bar. Now you have progress bars, and they found that people are more likely to have a more complete profile if they have a progress bar because they want to get all the way to the end. And I don't know if you're guilty like me on a lot of these sites. I still haven't reached the end of some of these progress bars for making my full profile, but it still pushes people to become more engaged as well. Okay. A lot of the talks today that I've been listening to have been, we've been talking about COVID. How has COVID affected the way we approach our lessons? And one of the main things, obviously, is trying to keep in mind not only our own well-being as teachers, but our students' well-being. And when you implement games in your lessons, it's like a little break from reality. And this is just inherent well-being. It's a little break, and everyone, forgets about their real world problems. So sometimes our classrooms, it is that safe space. It's a nice little place for people to just focus on the language or whatever task is at hand. And let's keep that in mind as well. So I actually did a little bit of research with my students at Schema Business School. I did a survey with 174 undergraduate students, and I wanted to know their thoughts on gamification. So let me share with you the specific results from my survey. However, there's lots of data you can find if you just start Googling gamification. Before I even show you my statistics, over 80% of Generation Z they regularly play video games, something like between 5 to 7 hours per week is the statistic. And we all know how the video game industry has transformed over the years. Now there are professional gamers that make millions of dollars from these esports tournaments. And video games touches everyone. And just the fact, if you can bring games into the classroom, we all know that learning works better when you bring something familiar. And the students, if they're playing games at home and then you start bringing that into the classroom, they're thinking, oh, this is, I like this, I know how to play games, this is a familiar kind of theme that I'm familiar with, and so that will also enhance learning. So my first question is, I just wanted to know if they liked playing games to learn, and the results were really, really positive. You can see 85% strongly agreed. Now, I didn't put the other options. They were in the survey, neither agree nor disagree, disagree, strongly disagree. It's just that nobody even selected those for this particular question. 100% of the class, all my students agreed. There was no hesitation there. So that was really, that was something. Playing educational technology games in class really improved my learning, 70%. Somewhat improved, 26%. Neither nor, 4%. And nobody selected that it negatively affected their learning. So very positive once again. Repetition in the games improved my learning of new concepts. A key aspect of some of these apps and games is that you repeat questions over and over again, or you see them, and it's just kind of, this is also part of memory models and spaced repetition. We all know that the best way to remember something is to do it again and again repeatedly, but not only just in one session, but after they say it's best to do it like an hour or two after the lesson, then in 24 hours, then 48 hours, then 1 week, then 2 weeks, then in a month, then in 6 months. And if you really remember with that spaced repetition, then you remember long term. Okay, so repetition in these games really helped improve learning of new concepts. And then I'm less afraid, and this one actually surprised me. I'm less afraid to make mistakes when playing games in class. So 56% strongly agreed, and then 12% somewhat agreed. So we have about 68% that agree. And then the rest, well, 20% neither nor. Now, is that because they don't feel, I need to go in more in depth for this particular question? Is it because they're not afraid to make mistakes in my particular class when they're participating, or in general for English, or I don't know. This one I have to do a little bit more research on, and it's ongoing. So I'm working on that. So those were the 4 main questions of my survey. And I hope that, seeing that makes you think about the positive impact of games in the classroom if you haven't tried it already, or I'm sure maybe some of you already have, but there you go. Here are some specific comments from the students. I think using games to learn is really effective. In addition to that, everyone is aware and awake during these games. So we're talking also about increased engagement. And this is something that many studies have shown is just kind of a common thread that all throughout gamification studies is increased engagement. Bringing games into learning makes us improve a lot and allows us to let off steam. Okay, so there you go. Maybe someone who's not having a great day, or they just need to get some energy out because, if I teach in a school where it's kind of like the traditional classrooms, everyone's sitting down. I try to make my lessons as interactive and student-centered as possible, but my students have 6 or 8 hours of lessons a day. It's like a full intensive day of lessons every day, and they're probably just sitting there the whole time, and probably most of the time passive. And so making them active, is something that we can all appreciate. And I'm sorry, by the way, that I can't make this talk a little bit more interactive, and that we're not going to test out some of the applications I'm going to present because it would take too much time. In a normal workshop that I would do, if I had a lot more time, everyone would be able to really test out these apps firsthand. Using applications like this gives us another way to learn. I'm not afraid to make mistakes, and it allows me to remember the content because we want to remember it for the next round. So this, you hear a little bit of the competitive nature coming out of this student's comments. They want to remember it for the next round because the beauty of these educational technology apps is, I can tell you how I structure it. The first time I launch a quiz, usually I tell them, this is the learning stage. You're discovering. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, but make sure you remember for the next round. And we could argue, are they just remembering the answer, or are they able to identify in my multiple choice grammar and vocabulary questions? Are they able to identify certain indicators that lead to the correct answer? But nonetheless, they kind of, I think they get a better feel, if you do multiple rounds with the same quiz. That's a quote from my students. In my experience, games help me learn vocabulary faster. Repeated it several times in a game made me understand them. Also, the competition with the others is interesting. You want to be first so you don't have to make mistakes and need to stay concentrated. I really appreciated games and learning. I didn't really edit too much of my students' writing, but there you go. So here are the different apps that I like to use regularly, and I'm going to share with you the advantages and disadvantages and compare each of these for you. First is quizzes. If you like Kahoot, and I purposely didn't even mention Kahoot in my talk because everyone knows Kahoot. But if you like Kahoot, you should try quizzes because it can be very similar, where you can advance at a teacher pace, meaning that you choose when to go on to the next question, or you actually just say start quiz and they do all the questions until the end. The difference with quizzes and Kahoot is that you get bonuses and you see a leaderboard all throughout. And I think that the analytics and the statistics that you get from quizzes might be a little bit more detailed than Kahoot. As soon as you finish a quiz, you actually get some automated statistics like the most commonly missed questions, and you can review that very quickly with the students, knowing and pinpointing the key target weakness areas. But let me talk about the bonuses. And this is something I think everybody should consider implementing in their own lessons. Here are all the bonuses that you can have in quizzes. Now, do you think you could implement these types of bonuses into your own lessons, even if you don't use Quizzes the app? That's not what I'm talking about. Imagine if you made a deck of cards, just like, you know, a cardboard card cutout, and on one of it said X2, and you get twice the points for answering the next question. 50-50 eliminates half of the incorrect responses. You could look at all these. You could actually make cards and use them in a low tech way. And you know, you could have that ready for any type of lesson. Random draw. You know, think about when you used to play Monopoly. You had the chance or the community chest cards, and you don't know what you're going to get, and it's just kind of like a little bonus to add on to your lesson. And just doing that adds a more dynamic element. Just take a quick note. There's some nice little bonuses that are fun. Glitch, the second to last one, it kind of makes a glitch, a blurry matrix type screen on everyone's screen for 10 seconds. So that's kind of funny if the players enable that during play. Everyone kind of goes, what's going on? And those little elements are kind of fun. And a little element of surprise is also nice to have for gamification. Surprise is always good. Okay, GimKit. Maybe some of you may not know GimKit so well, but this is next level. I do have to admit that it takes students a little bit more time to learn how to use this one. But once they learn, they really get into it. Now, GimKit, as soon as you answer a question correctly, you earn money, and then you can go to a shop. And then within the shop, you can purchase all sorts of different bonuses. So the student actually selects which bonuses that they can get. Some of them will just add more money to their own account, their own amount that they have. Sometimes they can actually choose bonuses that will attack other players. You can see blur. You can, just like the glitch in quizzes, you can blur someone else's screen, but you can choose the name of the student that you want. So if I'm a student in my class, I can see on the screen, if you look at the leaderboard, it says, you know, Josh is number 7. Let's say he wants to get the blur. And since Joanna, he sees that she's in first place, he can actually choose to blur her screen for 15 seconds, and that'll slow down the first place position, and maybe it'll give the chance for other people to catch up. And so that can be really fun too. So GimKit is really interesting, and I recommend it. If once the students get to know it, they really, really like it. Socrative, okay. Socrative, you can do a classic race with a progress bar. There are no bonuses, it's just the first one, but it's also the most accurate and the fastest who wins. It's not just the fastest, because in order to make progress, you have to get a question correct. If you don't like all the bells and whistles and all the flashy, if that's not your personality, not your style, you might like Socrative, because you can actually just do quizzes without the gamification aspect. And it's actually very versatile. You can have open-ended questions. You can, of course, have multiple choice and true false, but I've used Socrative in many ways. For example, for just giving feedback while observing a presentation. I have students go in Socrative and they type comments, and you can block it so that it's anonymous. Of course, you can make it visible so that you see it as the teacher who is saying what, but I've used Socrative for brainstorming, for voting, for open-ended questions. So if gamification isn't your thing, then this is probably one of the most neutral ones. All right, the last one, Quizlet Live. Quizlet Live is a little bit more unique. Maybe you already know Quizlet, but have you tried Quizlet Live? There's a big difference, a huge difference. It's not the same thing as just the classic Quizlet where you kind of study on your own. This is a team game. Everyone gets assigned like a random animal. And you can see here on the screen, here, I'll go on the next one. Here you have two different teams. The team at the top, they have the question about Moscow, and then the team at the bottom, they have the team about what's the capital of Belgium. Now, all three of those devices are connected. And let's say, you know, those three students, they're working together. Only one student will have the correct answer. So this forces teamwork and collaboration. It's really, really unique, and they love it because, you know, they get a question and, you know, okay, so do you have the answer? I think the answer is Moscow. No, I don't have it. Do you have it? And they really have to communicate with each other in order to get the correct answer and make progress the fastest. Because if someone just tries to play alone, you know, they won't understand, first of all, because they might not only, you know, one student won't always have the answer to that question because, you know, only one student in that group has the question, has the answer to the question. Another thing that's great about Quizlet is if you make one mistake, you go all the way back to the beginning. And this really creates a lot of suspense. This is a really great app. And Quizlet is a flashcard system. I'm sure most of you already know it. If you don't, it's based off of flashcards. And you can just do definitions, vocabulary, and really, for me, I think Quizlet is probably the top application out there for vocabulary. Okay, so let's compare, okay? Which app creates the best competitive atmosphere? For me, it's a tie between Gimkit and Quizlet Live. So while Gimkit is more strategic, Quizlet Live builds more suspense because with Gimkit, everyone can play for 10 minutes and then it's just the top score. But Quizlet Live, as soon as one team finishes, it stops the game for all the teams. So it stops the game for everyone as soon as one team wins. Are there quizzes ready-made? Actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I'm going to share right now in the chat a little link. I'm happy to share some of my quizzes with you. Created a Google spreadsheet. I'm trying to, here we go. Let me take a minute and copy the link. Here we go. And actually, since it's a Google spreadsheet, I invite everyone to, if you want to share some quizzes on any application, because this is the power also of these tools, is that we can make a quiz and share it with all the other teachers. I've done this with my team at my university, and if you have a team of 10 people, each one makes one quiz, you have 10 quizzes. It's really powerful to share. I've made 10 myself on this spreadsheet that you're more than free to use. And I'm happy to go ahead, and I hope that you guys share that as well. All right, let's continue back to the presentation. Be careful, you don't want to miss any red hearts. Which app makes for best collaboration and teamwork? Quizlet Live. I think it's obvious based on what I said. Quizlet forces students to communicate with each other and choose the correct response as a team. They're working together to achieve a common goal. If a student decides to work alone, it can actually work against the team. Okay. Which app delivers the best individual student play, every person for themselves? It's a tie between Kahoot and quizzes. Like I said, quizzes can be very similar to Kahoot. And so if you're doing individual play, I would say that's the best one. Although quizzes is better if you want to let students, each student work at their own pace. Okay. This is the question that I asked my students. So which app did you like the best? Okay, what do you think they like the best? If you want to participate in the chat before I show the results, which out of the four do you think my students thought was their favorite? Okay. Yeah, those who participated in the chat, yes, some of you are catching up. Quizzes is uh, it's catching on this year. I think I'm using quizzes a little bit more myself this year. So it's gaining in popularity. This was a survey that I asked last year. I'm gonna have to do it. I did one a little bit at the start, but I do this particular question at the end of the semester. So Quizlet was number one, GimKit number two, Quizzes three, and Socrative was last. Socrative can also be great. Nothing against that. Okay, what elements can we take away from all these different games? How could we apply them into our own lessons? So we're talking about applications, but let's talk about the elements of gamification that we can apply into any lesson, right? So if you show progress, leaderboards, or points, these are great ways to kind of let the students, well, first of all, it can build competition if you think that's fun, and if you think the students would like that in your particular groups. So competition can always add a nice dynamic element. Bonuses, like I showed you guys earlier with the deck of cards. If you just want to add some extra points here and there, you get points for a correct answer. But then what about adding, like I showed earlier, a ×2 multiplier, or eliminating some of the incorrect responses to a question? Timers, adding a little bit of time pressure. Randomization. Now, this is one of my favorites. I have a different game, a PowerPoint game called BAM. And the favorite thing about this game is that it's not always the smartest, the students who are best at English who win this game. I like games which kind of even and level the playing field, and randomization can be a powerful tool for that. Sometimes weaker students in the group can be a bit discouraged, and randomization can kind of give them a little sense of hope. So that's something to consider too. And it can go along with the bonuses. A good way to even the playing field is actually to take away points. In the game that I was telling you about called BAM, there's a bunch of boxes, and you just choose a number, and it's the luck of the draw. You choose the wrong number, and you lose all your points. And it's kind of like Quizlet, where you go all the way back to the beginning. So something like that can really help the weaker students get a bit of hope. Repetition and second chances. I can't overemphasize that enough. Repeat, and second chances. It's really also discouraging if you feel like you only have one shot. The best way to improve is to kind of give people the sense that they can do it again. Squid Game in your class, okay. All right, what you get with games. So just to sum up, I'm at the end here. It creates a positive, safe, risk-free learning environment. Students feel like, okay, they can try things, and they're not gonna be embarrassed if they make mistakes because it's in the game environment. Building teamwork and good sportsmanship. That's something if students try to cheat, well, you can penalize that too, and you can that can work against them, but most of the time you have good teamwork. Increased engagement, definitely. I can see a huge change in attention from my students whenever I start a game. And of course, depending on the game, you can get lots of other things from games. Communication skills, problem solving, critical thinking, time management, creativity. You get lots and lots of different soft skills from playing games. So if you weren't convinced before, I hope I've convinced you now. And I'm happy to share my slides. If you give me a second, I can try to put a link for that, or I'll send it to Annie. I'm going to go ahead to the next slide here. So how many hearts did you count? Go ahead, first person in the chat. Okay, I think it's Lily. Yep, Lily was the first one who was correct. The correct answer is actually 10. All right, so Lily, if I can get your email address, I'd like to get in touch with you. I'd like to give you, I'd like to invite you to our TESOL France colloquium. I'm gonna take care of this invitation and invite you to our online conference. And if you can't make it, so let me go ahead and write down your name, Lily Soto. Lily Soto, you were the first one to put 10. Okay, so I'll try to get this. Here we go. Okay, thank you very much. I've got the email and I'm going to copy that. Okay. Yeah, any questions?
And Annie, do we have time for a quick question?
Couple of minutes.
Yeah, I finished just at 15, so sorry. Yeah.
In the meantime, Jeremy, yes, please, if you could share the PowerPoint presentation with us, and if you give us permission to share the recording of the session.
Sure.
Okay, great, because we would like to upload the recordings and the PowerPoint presentations to our website for all the participants to watch again and to see the slides again.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for your kind comments. It's truly a pleasure to speak to all these people, all these passionate teachers like you from around the world. So yeah, thank you so much for all the comments. I'm trying to prepare my share link here. Give me a second here.
There's a question that is for us organizers. To get the certificate, you're going to be sent the certificates in, let's say, 24, 48 hours after the event. We are going to be sending the certificates of attendance.
All right, there's the link for my slides. Actually, I should delete those parts at the end that don't need to be there.
Let's see, it looks like there's a question. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Jeremy. I'm always, I just sent you a message, a personal message, that your energy and your ideas through the games is incredible. I don't know how you do it, but it's really inspiring. So thank you very much for those ideas and also reminders of things to use in class. I don't know how the rest of you feel, but it really livens up a classroom. So thank you very much.
Wonderful. It's a wonderful presentation and so energetic. Yes, you're right. So thank you so much, Jeremy. Thank you, Debbie, for monitoring the session and making my life easier.
A little bit.
And to everybody else, in, let's say, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, we're going to be having the next session with next TESOL. So see you at the TESOL France colloquium.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, yeah, Annie, you're presenting, right?
Yeah.
If my memory serves me correctly from everyone in the agenda, yeah.
Yes, we're two from TESOL-SPAIN. It's Dr. Daniel Brent and myself.
Okay. Well, looking forward to that. And just kind of like this, there'll be recordings, and so with your permission, obviously, but we're going to do the same kind of thing.
Yeah, and I encourage people to register because it's a wonderful conference. I enjoy it a lot every time I go to Paris, but well, things are like this year. But we hope to go again to Paris in November next year.
Yeah, things were just a little too uncertain this time, but
yeah,
I'm pretty optimistic.
Very wise.
But I'm getting a bit more optimistic about the future, little by little,
Yeah.
right? Are you
Yeah.
guys feeling the same in Spain?
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah,
Little by little, we're getting there.
that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Thank
see
you.
you soon, and thank you very much for this session.
Bye.
Bye.